Hey, what's going on, Doombots? It's time to talk about Morbius. We got our Nope or Dope running. This time, the living vampire. So, spoilers, pretty cool. Let's just get through that. We're going to use msf.gg, website msf.gg, to look at the character at moderate investment, look through the skills, kind of determine whether or not he's worth your resources. So, building a character as we always do, gear tier 14, 5-star for red, level 80, putting the ISOs on him that we think make the most sense. In this situation, we're going to stick with Striker. I don't necessarily believe Striker is the absolute best. I think Striker and Raider are really close. We'll look through more in the detail, but I'm just going to use Striker to get that little bit of a boost to damage and the calculation to show what's going on. So at this level of investment with no tier 4s, middling health pool, decent damage, armor, focus, resistance, all within a reasonable range. He doesn't have a particularly insane stat kit. You bring him up a little bit more, let's just go ahead and bring him to 5.5 or something along those lines. You end up with a little bit more health, a significant chunk more damage. He doesn't scale exponentially as some of the other characters do. And even at 150k, health starts becoming meaningful to the end game content. Damage, truly great, but who's going to have this, right? Not a lot of people, and if they are, they're not looking for advice anyway. As far as stats goes, not an unreasonable stat. So we can already tell that Morbius is not so much a stat character, he is going to have to be a kit character. And boy, is he a kit character. Taking a look at his abilities, bringing them down a little bit, we can track, starting with the bottom, Nocturnal Frenzy. So, attack the prime, living vampire. 30% piercing, 20% drain, Dark Hunter allies gain 20% drain. Phenomenal, right? Makes him great on his own. Lets people on his team become strong. Should be okay. The tier 4 on this one only affects war. So already we're going to discuss this from the perspective of if you want him good in war, do this. And you should, because he is part of a war offense team, and it's a very good war offense team, very key to the lock scenario with the Heroes for Hire, and of course, the Web Warriors if you're starting to see them on defense, which you probably will. They're not very good on offense. On war offense, the character has 4 more city heroes, gain 300% focus, it's 3 times, gain 30% damage, Dark Hunters gain 30% damage, and this upgrade if on war offense, on spawn, 3 or more Dark Hunters. So the entire war offense team brought together. Apply blind to the 4 highest damage city hero enemies. What does that mean? It means not Luke Cage, right? It means most likely not Spider-Punk or one of the Miles, maybe, depending on how their breakpoints are in your investments. But that's a big deal. That's a huge deal. So for war, this is not even a question. You gotta do this. Outside of war, if you're trying to get it out of them for like maybe a raid or Dark Dimension, utterly useless. In war, where you want to be using this team, you can't skip it. It's pretty much a necessity. Moving to the ultimate. Again, huge ultimate, just like Doc Voodoo, right? Like Voodoo's is 8, this one is 7. Ready on turn 1 with the team, but who cares really when you look at it? Attack primary target for 390 up to 450 damage. Flip defense up and deflect. Chain to 4 for more damage, obviously. Flip defense up. On war offense, if this character has 3 or more Dark Hunters, apply trauma and heal block for 2 turns to primary and secondary targets. Basically, the entire chain. Counterattack breaks this chain. On war offense, though, can't be countered or blocked. War offense. Again, the increase in damage is great. You're not going to really feel it in other versions, in other game modes, like in Dark Dimension or in raids. If you happen to want to use this type of character, you're not going to feel it there. You're just not. It's so much energy. You're going to get to use this once in a blue moon. Granted, you could have Death Pull energy battering him, but it's not that beneficial to you as a player to pull this off. And then the War Offense Tier 4. This, again, matters in War Offense, kind of almost required on War Offense. Not so great outside of it. So these are the two. Gotta have them for War. No question. Probably can skip them if you don't intend on working up this team as high as you need for a War team. Special, same thing as Doc Voodoo. It's a 3 energy. It's a light attack. It hits a lot of people. The downside to this attack is also the upside to this attack. It doesn't have that, that tier 4 ability block that Doc Voodoo has. What it does have is a little bit more damage and a little bit more bleed stacks. I don't think this is worth a tier 4. I think you shouldn't either if you really look at it. Your mileage may vary. But attack primary target adjacent for 210 goes to 250. Apply 3 bleeds to the primary and 2 bleeds to the secondary. It goes 3 bleeds instead. It's not plus 3. It's not 5 bleeds to secondaries. It's just 2 to 3. Sure. Does it matter? Maybe. You'll find out real soon if you need this tier 4. But this seems like a relatively skippable one. But then we have his basic. And this one attack is what puts the entirety of this character in the running for good in other game modes. Attack primary target for 170% damage, up to 200 with tier 4s. If primary target has bleed, steal 4 health from primary target and redistribute 5%, health from primary target and bypass this heal block. With tier 4s, goes to 10. On War Offense, apply 2 bleed. So, that combined with the fact that his assist, his counter, and his ISO assist also, if the primary target has bleed, steal 5%. Huge boost for this character. Huge boost. Not even a question. The downside is they gotta have bleed. So if you're going to use this character in raids, who's he going to really replace? From the pool of the best 5 mystic characters. It's not much. If you're going to use him in Dark Dimension, which he's not a bad city character, how easy is it going to be for you to facilitate putting bleed stacks? Well, that depends on Cloak Dagger's abilities and what other characters are coming in. You're not using the symbiotes as much anymore, so it's very unlikely you're going to get those Carnage or Scream or any anti-venom bleed stacks. So it's kind of strange. This ability stands as one of the highest ceiling abilities. It can be amazing, but also one of the lowest floors. It can just be a regular attack, and your punishment is you can't just splash him anymore. If you find a good use for him, you can. Now let's talk about, unlike the other characters, at the end, his tags, because this is where it comes up. Villain, sure. City, okay. Most of the characters on this team are global. Technical characters like Mordo and Hela that a lot of people are using on this comp are cosmic. So right now it's just Morbius and Ghost Rider. Fine. Controller. Of course he's a controller, because it's been a while since I've had to spend, 81 times 5 ISOs on a character to make them useful in the game to me. He's a controller. As with everything, controllers are among the better characters. That's why it's so hard to invest in them. What are we going to do? Nothing, right? We're going to have to deal with it. Mystic. The good news is he's a villain mystic controller. You can get your Phoenix with him. The bad news is he takes controller ISOs and mystic gear in a time, place, and world where we don't have extra to spare. In addition to that, he doesn't outright do anything without being built around. He doesn't slot in, he slots through. So if you want to bring this character into Greek raids or Doom raids, you really have to make sure you're building either the whole Dark Hunter team, and even then, depending on the Greek raid, and even then, depending on the Doom raid, so you're not getting a lot of value, because the Mystics in Doom raid is a pretty tight pool of already have this problem solved for most players. Cersei, Icarus, Deathpool, Doctor Doom, Cloak, Dagger, Surfer. Like, there's still so many good Mystic characters that you can pick from that he doesn't really do much to justify taking gear away from them if you were trying to compete and do harder difficulties. But you might be able to. And Dark Dimension, again, looking at his kit, I don't think it's unreasonable to want to bring him into Dark Dimension. Looking at the fact that he's a controller with Mystic requirements, there's already 5, 6, 7 Mystics that are drawing your gear, your teal gear in harder Dark Dimensions, your Shuggoth armors, and, or Ichors, or whatever they're called, and your talismans in the Mystic pool. That how many characters do you have to either already have done or knowingly skip, even if you don't have them unlocked? One day you will. How many of these characters are worth this gear, or worth this gear before he gets it? You know what I mean? So that's kind of where we come up. Is Morbius dope? Yeah, he really is. On War Offense, he is the final piece of a puzzle that will be used immediately to counter at least one team, which is the Web Warriors. And with some decent investment over time, the Heroes for Hire. He is the final piece of the puzzle. Most of the characters on that team are older, so you might have some investment in them as it stands. The Supernatural team wasn't terrible about two years ago, even a year ago. The translation won't be too much, but really comes down to dope character, really cool kit, great on War Offense against certain teams. And just to throw out there, they don't get worse if they're not fighting city heroes. They just don't get insanely good value against them. They're a very good War Offense team. If you need a War Offense team, you can't really ask for more than the Dark Hunters, and Morbius was the kind of the cherry on the top of the cake for that team. Really brings them together. If you don't really need to worry about a War Offense team right now, for whatever reason, it's really hard to justify bringing up a character that needs so much and takes so many contentious resources, Mystic Gear, Controller ISOs. You're probably going to have to leave him at the bottom for a while, at least until the next update that makes Mystic characters. Not to mention that we already have confirmation of a new Mystic style team coming in the Darkhold team. We know one of those characters is already Mystic. Probably the rest will be too. Well, we already know about Scarlet Witch. But with MILF, Morgan Le Fay also being a Mystic, I feel like Morbius just might have come at the worst possible time for most players in the game. But that's what I think. Comment below, let me know what you think about Morbius, aside from the obvious is cool vampire dude, or maybe you're just going to wait until Blade eventually shows up. Anyway, have a good night, have a great day. I've been Tony Scungili, and I will catch you later.